Thank you so much. First things first, on March 29, 2023, Governor Haley signed into law a supplemental budget bill which, among other things, extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. The language does not make any substantive changes to open meeting law other than extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 20, I'm hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run live on the city's community TV channel. I'd like to acknowledge that here on the call with us remotely is Acting Commissioner Russell Johnston, and also from DESE, Miss Lauren Wu. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Our first order of business, and most important, is discussions around the turnaround plan with a focus on improvement. So for this, I would like to acknowledge Acting Commissioner Johnston so that he can lead us to the start of this discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera Colon. I'm wondering if we could begin by deciding sort of the process that we want to take. I have a proposal for you, but I'd like to just talk about maybe process before we get into substance, before we talk about the specific areas of improvement, but just how do we want to approach this? Is it okay if I offer a suggestion, or would you like to begin? Is it okay if we start with the idea of process and offer a suggestion?
Yes, as of now, the way that we have it in our agenda, which was published for everybody, we have it all the discussions broken down by priority areas.
Yes.
So I am ready to listen to your suggestions.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. So as I said previously, we're very happy that we get to focus on this topic first, this idea of focusing on improvement. And I appreciate that you had suggested that and agreed that we would all go back and look at the turnaround plan with fresh eyes. And I appreciate that this subcommittee also looked at additional information prior to this meeting. And I also appreciate that we agreed that we would come back to this topic, that we wouldn't consider it sort of a one meeting topic and be done with it, that we would in fact need to come back to this to explore it further. It's an important topic. And so I wonder if as a process, we did our homework as well. We went back and re-looked at the turnaround plan, and we have about 14 or 15 areas that we see as ways in which the turnaround plan helps to focus on improvement. And we're wondering about kind of going through those areas. Let's just take again the idea that the high school, the redesign of the high school and the ability for students to have pathways at the high school and including early college is one area, one of the 14 or 15 that we might want to talk about. And so if we take that topic and say, is this a topic that we agree we would want to focus on after receivership? And that we all feel very committed to making sure that the idea of students at the high school having opportunities to determine, to have pathways opportunities, including early college. If we say that's something we want to continue on, there are kind of two questions that come up. The first is, does the school committee need any additional information about that topic? Is there anything that the school committee needs as sort of training or resources about that topic? And then the third piece of it is, and then how will the school committee continue to take action on that topic? And in particular, a lot of this focus on improvement is about what goes on the agenda for future school committee meetings. A lot of these things are actually, a lot of the topics for tonight's discussion are also in the district strategic plan. So, what we want to see, a school committee doing post-receivership is continuing to focus on the strategic plan, not sort of, bringing new ideas kind of right and left one meeting to the next, but more like steady focus on the strategic plan. And so again, if this is a topic we agree that the district should continue to focus on after receivership, we would then ask, is it something that the school committee needs more information about in the way of either resources or, a training session or anything like that from DESE? And then the third part is, and how will the school committee show its focus on improvement by continuing to, look at data, by looking at, the progress that the district is making with these initiatives, and that would be sort of the third critical component. And so it might be for a lot of the things we talk about tonight, perhaps the answer is, let's just imagine, yes, we want to continue on with this initiative. We think it's important. Maybe there's no need for any additional training or resources. And then the third answer to the questions that I've laid out might be, we're going to agree that there should be sort of periodic updates on the strategic plan from the district with the review of data and, the school committee sort of, shining that light on what progress is the school district making towards its efforts in these areas that we have decided to continue on post receivership. Does that make sense? And certainly glad to adjust any of those, recommendations for this important work that we're doing together.
Thank you so much. Members of the committee, do you have anything else to add or questions before we move forward?
I just think so sorry, can you guys hear me okay? So in preparing for the meeting, we broke down the priority areas amongst the members to study more in depthly. So as you're going through the recommendations, as you want to go through them, if you could just kind of suggest as to what priority area, what we're discussing at the time falls under, so that way we can kind of keep track of things as we go. And just because that's how we referenced it in the agenda too. So,
Sure.
Instead of 5 of us or 4 of us trying to really understand 50 pages, we thought it was best for us. So we divided the work amongst the 4 of us and really dove into our sections. So as you're coming through, we can just kind of hone in as to what priority area what we're discussing as the time falls under. So that way we can, that's how we kind of broke it down to keep track of. So it'll just be helpful tidbits as we go.
Dr. Caballero.
No, I agree entirely with Ms. Brunel, and that will give us a better structure, for our discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. And again, for all the people who might be watching, it's important that we have everything completely lined up with our agenda so that they know what we're talking about at all times. So I agree as well. Thank you so much.
Great. I don't have my information organized quite that way, but we'll make sure that we do just what you're saying. It shouldn't be a problem. And Lauren, I might need your help a little bit with that too.
Yeah, I think we can probably help with it too as we go through.
Great. So any other thoughts or questions? And then maybe we could begin. I thought it might be useful if we start with some of the more concrete ideas as opposed to, the ones that are sort of a little bit more obvious than ones that we need to, like I was saying, the pathways is something that high school pathways is something that's a little more clear cut and might help us sort of gain our momentum as opposed to, a focus certain areas of instruction might be a little bit more just broad, whereas the pathways is sort of a bit more tangible. And so I wonder if we want to jump in with some of these more concrete items and sort of see how it's going as we build up our momentum tonight.
Yes, that sounds good.
Great. All right. So let's start with personalized pathways, which is in priority area 2 of the turnaround plan. Is that a good way to frame that? Just say we're looking at priority area 2. Great. And so just toggling back and forth real quick. So with the personalized pathways, we think about things like sorry, just oh, sorry. Okay. So the within the category of personalized pathways, we have the focus on dual language programming that the district has done so much to expand. In recent years, we have the high school linked learning academies and alternative programming like Opportunity Academy. And so we see that, we've created those opportunities for expanded dual language, the redesigning the high school experience to offer high interest pathways for all students, including the updated schedule for to create opportunities for more deeper learning experiences for high school students. So just starting with those three areas in particular, the dual language, high school pathways, and alternative education options for students. That's my sort of, again, my initial question is, are these areas that the school committee would want to continue to support post receivership? I'm starting off with them because we certainly do, but really glad to have a discussion. And like we said, this might be something that if we need to go back out and find some more information about, rather than deciding tonight yes or no, it might be that we need to go find out more information for an upcoming meeting.
Ms. Bruno.
The short answer is yes, yes, and yes. The dual language program is absolutely the shining star of our district, I believe, and I think I'm okay speaking for all of us when we say that we're firmly committed to continuing and enhancing the dual language program in any way we can. To see what's coming out of the high school at this point in time is nothing short of amazing of what our students can accomplish when pushed there. As far as the academies and the pathways to the high school go, I think I like what we're doing there. I think the block scheduling that we've shifted to for next year, according to the principal and all the administration there, is going to go really well. I was fortunate enough to sit in on the high school's budget presentation just this past week, and they seem to have things really well organized and really laid out. I think there's one area that we could strengthen in our middle school with regards to the pathways at the high school, which is just providing potentially more opportunity for arts and media education to be, feeding that particular academy at Holyoke High. I think there's some work we can do in our middle schools. Again, it's first year with them. So some strengthening we can do in that regards to make sure that we're feeding the theater, the arts, the media academy. Other than that, I think that we're doing a really good job there. And then as far as alternative education, if everything goes forward with the purchase of 225 High Street, which the city is working on now, I know that we plan to move a program over there. And then we can look forward to when the new middle school opens and we have a building that will no longer be in use as of that fall, and what can we do there. And we've discussed whether or not that could potentially be an early education center, or maybe the more important need here in the district is creating that alternative pathway and creating even more opportunity for that, especially with the social emotional crisis we've had since post-COVID. So I know that's something the district is definitely looking at, and it's something that I would fully support expanding and ensuring that we could service more students in district potentially and save money at the district level by sending less students out of district. So any supports that we can do in the district to support that, I can speak that we would wholeheartedly be supporting those. So these are three key priority areas that I could say that we would certainly be supporting moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And also as a word of, I don't even want to say caution, but just thinking forward, a lot of the reasons why this initiatives work is because we had the funding to be able to do that. So as we're planning forward and we're stepping out of receivership, it is important that we continue to have the financial support to continue those programs so that way we can continue to improve and see all the great things that our students are able to do when they're given the proper tools. Dr. Gloria Caballero.
Thank you so much. So yes, I support my colleagues' opinions, and I have a question. Is there are there any standards to which we should be, adhering to when we talk about duolingual programs and funding? What are the expectations of the Department of Education with regards to these programs? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so we do actually have guidelines for developing dual language programming, for example. And I wonder if that sort of brings us to the next question that I had. So it seems like we're pretty universally in favor of maintaining personalized pathways, dual language, high school pathways, as well as alternative education. And so my next question is, are there resources or is there information or workshops or anything that the school committee needs? We think about, the school committee is going to continue to focus on this area of improvement post receivership. Then what does the school committee need now in order to be ready for that? And what I'm hearing is maybe, it could be useful to get just, maybe some more information about what are the components of high quality dual language offerings for students. And so that's a good example of that second question that I have. And so I wonder if it's useful to go there and just sort of, make a determination of what would be useful for the school committee to learn more about, if anything, right? About any of those three areas that we would continue to push forward on, that you would continue to push forward on post receivership.
Ms. Burnell.
So I would say I think we have a really great working relationship with the district now around dual language education. We've been at it for 9 years now. Last year, the district hired Laura Espinoza, which is the director of dual language education. I know she has a wonderful open door policy. We've had many presentations on what we expect from dual language. There was just an open house for, say, 5th grade parents coming into the middle school dual language. So I think we're pretty good there. We can certainly make sure our newest member is well up to speed with what we've got going there. And I feel pretty comfortable and confident with the high school academy and pathways too. Like I said, I just think it could use a little work maybe in the middle school level on how we can enhance what our middle school students are experiencing to get up there. But most importantly, I would say alternative pathways. I think one of the most areas we've been, I don't want to say out of touch with, but I would say the less in depth and involved with, and again, maybe just for me because it's not my specialty, we all kind of have things we focus on, would be the SPED department. So getting a little bit more education about the SPED department, getting a little bit more education about funding resources, grant opportunities, and then also finding out more about what we can provide and how can we provide it, and just, making sure, I know there's a lot of laws and a lot more depth or detail when it comes to providing services to this special needs population of the district. So I know that I could learn more in that regard. So I would say that that's probably something that we could make sure we're getting a little bit more educated on as we move forward.
Then another thing that I want to make sure that we're also focusing on, since we are talking about at the high school level, is also our vocational programs, as we hopefully, like Ms. Brunel would say, give Dean its identity back. So that's something that I know that as a school committee, we also want to make sure that we focus on as part of this process, because we want to make sure that we're taking care of all our students so that all our students have pathways, regardless of what high school they go to.
So,
Ms. Brunel, and then Dr. Caballero.
Yeah, thank you for that point, because I feel like too quickly we say high school and we think of Holyoke High School. And so that's a really good point because the academies and the pathways does continue into our vocational school when you think about the shops and the freshman experience of exploring the shops and everything like that. So making sure we absolutely keep a focus on, you know, the fact that we do have two very distinct programs here. And that's another benefit, you know, my priority of my study priority areas were 4 and 5. So, you know, I keep thinking about our investments in our district. So I go back to the opening of the new middle school come fall of 2025, and then we'll be able to move the middle school students out of this campus. And so reinvigorating our vocational offerings here and making sure that we're, you know, providing, you know, not just access for the middle schoolers for the programming at Holyoke High North, but also here at the Dean campus. So thank you for bringing that back to the attention.
Dr. Caballero.
As you were talking, I was just thinking about, so duolingual, is that only emphasizing Spanish? How about the students that are coming without English? Are we focusing on that kind of duolingual support for our students? Because then they struggle taking tests and the MCAS, and are we supporting them enough? That's another question that I have. And if we could focus on that, because it's part of also the growth of our student body, and not only to learn another language and study it in a foreign language, in this case Spanish, but then as we move on and get a lot of families who need support in English, can we expand the concept of duolingual to also include English as a second language and English literacy? That's a question.
Ms. Brunel.
That's one of the wonderful things about dual language is it's not only enhancing the experience that our English language students learning Spanish have, but it's also a great pathway for our students coming that are now being able to be immersed in English in a new way because they're getting a lot of their instruction in their native language and being able to learn English through that process. So, for example, we don't take Spanish language learners after a certain age, but we always take English language learners into the dual language. Excuse me if I'm like misspeaking that exact sentence, but we're much more willing to take English language learners into the dual language program. It's you know, back in when we were in school in the 90s, we had I can't think of what it was called, but they had more submersive programming for students learning English, right? So now with the dual language program, it affords us that opportunity for them to be getting a good amount of their English or their education in their native language and helping to get them through that. So, you know, as we continue to grow through the high school, that leaves opportunity there to help those later age students that are coming too. But it's definitely something as a district with so many we need to focus on for sure.
So it sounds like there are a couple areas where you're interested in following up further, particularly around alternative education and high school pathways, including vocational. And then it sounds like it could be useful, though, if we were to provide some more information about dual language programming. It sounds like there's a lot to already share from within the district, but we could more incidentally just send on information for you all to look at as well. That sort of brings us to the third question, which is how would the school committee go about having a focus on these areas, which I had said earlier, maybe for this meeting today, we don't have to say, well, in September, we're going to have a meeting about pathways, but more to come back to this point of how will the school committee kind of focus on something like this that's in the strategic plan for the district. How will the school committee sort of look ahead to planning agendas for the 24-25 school year that will, periodically come back to this as an important issue as part of a review overall of the strategic plan and, hear information from the district and offer input that will help with things like budget development, because, like you said, Dr. Rivera Colon, how will knowing, about how you're going to fund these types of programs starts with just understanding what they are and the district's progress towards them. So I would put out there that we don't have to solve this problem right now if we agree that what we want to do as part of this planning process is just, maybe as we're pulling it all together in our final meeting is to say, how are we going to make sure that this focus on improvement is embedded in, or is a recurring theme in school committee meetings during the upcoming year with, like I said, updates, review of data, and then kind of planning and feedback from the school committee.
One thing that I have to say, and again, in this we are hard workers, and we're also lucky that we have a great relationship with the receiver. And as
Mhm.
the agendas have been put together through at least the time that I have been here, because I'm one of the newer ones, but in the time that I have been here, I have seen alignment with the strategic plan and our agendas
Good.
100% all the time. So that's not going to be something new that we have to learn.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
something that we've always done when the agendas are put together with our receiver, Mr. Soto, who's always willing to give us more information that sometimes we need. But we already do that, so that's not gonna be a hard push for us to be able to do this.
Sounds like it. That's great to hear. Can I ask then an additional question? Now that we've gone through one example, and we talked about by August, we're going to have a written plan. I want to make sure that our words tonight just don't get lost, right? And so what we're doing right now, this example that we just ran through, how we didn't talk about sort of essentially what we often say here at DESE is who has the pen, who's beginning to draft this plan based on what we've talked about tonight. And really want to be deferential to you all in terms of this is something that a plan that we'll agree on together, that we'll all stand behind. And I think we're all feeling positively about the experience so far. Just wondering though about how do you as a subcommittee imagine us actually taking these ideas we're talking about and putting them in writing?
So as of one of the things that we were talking about, because of course we want to have everybody's voice and input in this, would be there are meeting minutes of these meetings, of course.
Yes.
And as the chair of the committee, I'm starting to compile what are the big ideas and putting those together. So that way, when we meet with the full committee, they will get not only the summary, but as the ideas are coming to put that draft together. So that way, all of us in the committee, you guys at DESE, but also everyone who gets to listen to this is going to be able to have a say and see what our progress is, because oftentimes these things happen in a way that people don't get to see. So that my proposal is that as the ideas keep coming, this will be shared with everybody, with the subcommittee first for approval, and then to the full school committee so that they can see, and obviously we'll be able to get everybody's voice as part of the process. Ms. Brunel.
But to your point too, we can certainly create a Google Drive, a working sheet like we do for the agendas with those thoughts and those ideas, and be taking notes there as we're going, that you and Lauren can have access to as well, to be adding in and highlighting to make sure that we're formulating this outline as we're going. So like you said, so
Yes.
nothing's getting forgotten in a meeting, right? Moving forward. But I would like to point out, like, they are in writing already, because, as far as the turnaround plan goes, the strategic plan was such a thorough process here in the district, and there were so many meetings and so much input given and so much outreach done that, we feel like fully aligned with what most of the goals of the strategic plan are. I mean, like, obviously there's some stuff in here about COVID still that's like not important anymore, right? So there is some editing to do, of course. But like, we just feel like, there's going to be some tweakings, but like, it's not really so much of like, let's like recreate or reshape the district, because so much of what we are doing is going in such good wells. It's fine tuning in getting to have a little bit more say in things like, discussing like center-based and play-based learning in kindergarten, right? Like things like that, like when we get into like the really nitty-gritty of things. But like the overall like strategic plan and goals and and priorities for the district, I feel like we're all so involved with now too. So like, you know, to Jadi's point, I guess, is like we're doing it, right? Like we're in it, we're there. So like I feel like this is such a good thing to be going through, because like everything you're saying so far, it's like, yeah, you know, like, yeah, we're there, we're with that, we support it. So like, you know, like I said, we'll create that Google sheet to ensure that the notes are being done and the plans being formulated. But really, it's like, you know, the district already has a really solid plan. So, you know, the
Yep.
strategic plan
Yep.
is there. So like, really, we're just gonna like add to, enhance, and you know, we fully support the strategic plan, I guess is kind of what I'm saying. So, you know, just enhancing, moving forward from there. Obviously, there's things to be added, like, you know, how are we as a body functioning differently and things like that. But, you know, the overall arching goals of the district, like, you know, are pretty clear and pretty set, I feel like.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Right. Um, so I wonder, as we sort of think about the process, like we've spent a fair amount of time on one item, and it's been informative, like instructive, because we've never done this before, so it's a new process for all of us, and it's really confirming and you know, pretty exciting to think about the work that was put into the strategic plan, how closely the strategic plan aligns with the turnaround plan. And so maybe a different way of looking at this is to say, was there any part of the strategic plan that the school committee wouldn't continue to promote or, you know, support post receivership? If so, let's have that conversation, and then see what's sort of left after that. And then if, you know, if there are items, you know, how can we look at more support around them if necessary, or agreeing that we'd let them go. But it might be a little faster than, you know, my list of 14 or 15 things, like I mentioned. We might be able to get through the process a little more quickly, to tell you the truth, if we say we continue to endorse the strategic plan, and then there are some items from the turnaround plan that still need to be named, but it would certainly cut through a lot of the time, perhaps, if that's where we're wanting to land, is
Thank
with continuation of the strategic plan.
I just want to acknowledge that Mr. Romero has joined us. Then Dr. Caballero, and then Ms. Bruna.
Yeah, we're talking about the strategic plan, and I guess this shows how much the school committee has been working for so many years with the school department, with the receiver, and so much work and energy is being put into this that having seen, I am a new member, and having read, you know, how much work, how much thorough and dedicated work has been put into creating all these documents so that we transition in such a way that everybody has their saying and that there's such an alignment. To me, it's really amazing. I would like to, I don't know, congratulate the members of the school committee and the ones that preceded me, because this committee has been very active, even through pandemic. People have been meeting and working with the community and with the department, and that is really something that needs to be highlighted. And I would like to know also, how can we know if just before the receivership, if there are any other points here that should be left behind? I would love to see how it works. All these points work once we get out of receivership, and then decide, well, this is no longer in need of support, or this we should reinforce. But this is my how I would like to see, you know. Let us go through out of receivership. Let us continue implementing all these strategic plans, and then let us see what continues working or what doesn't need to be incorporated after that. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Bruna.
Yeah, so I was just gonna suggest, if you want to quickly like just run through your list, and then we could dive into the priority areas, because like we made individual notes on those. So if we brief through those, and
Sure.
then, you know, obviously we reconvene offline and then reconstruct the, you know, the takeaways moving forward. And if you give us your points, then we can do some homework on those points and see, and come back to you with talking points on your points. And then when we go over our points, you can come back to us with potential talking points talking points on our points. So
Great.
if you wouldn't mind going through, we have 1 through 3. So if you can go through the rest of yours, that'd
Happy
be
to.
awesome.
Dr. Rivera-Colon, does that sound all right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So investing in high quality instructional materials. So this is in priority area 1 that we would recommend continuing on with. The development of district instructional expectations also in priority area 1, providing all leaders and staff with professional development and Holyoke Public Schools instructional framework. That's number 2. Number 3 is development of the multi-tiered systems of support so that students get what they need in an individualized way. This is in priority area 1, high quality instruction for all. And we're excited that district leaders are currently planning district-wide PD on multi-tiered systems of support for next school year. Next area, also in priority area 1, am I going too fast?
No.
Okay. All right, excellent. Priority area 1, development of early literacy instructional programs. So that focus on early literacy, such as, providing all teachers and leaders of students in grades K to 2 with the knowledge they need around foundational reading skills, and then measuring the implementation of the early literacy strategies using walkthrough tools and other systems that the district has to collect and data and information about progress students are making. The next area in priority area 2 is the one we just talked about, the personalized pathways that includes dual language programming, high school linked learning academies, and alternative programming. The next area in priority, the next section or the next recommendation from priority area 2 is expanding preschool access. And so we're excited that during receivership, Holyoke has nearly doubled access to pre-K programming and added nearly 200 full-day pre-K seats. And so that's one that, we'd love to see continuing on post-receivership. The next item from priority area 2 is development of social emotional systems and opportunities. So that SEL work that we'd want to see continue on. The next one within priority area 3 is about regarding family and community engagement, is the professional development and planning that for staff around family engagement, as well as the translation and interpreter services to continue to expand. The next item from priority area 4 is the development of pipelines for developing educator talent from diverse backgrounds. So thinking about pipeline development to advance careers of educators with non-traditional preparation to increase the diversity and effectiveness of the educator workforce. Then the next 2 are ones that we, might want to decide who else should be part of the conversation, but these are perhaps, meatier topics that also relate to negotiations. So the compensation model that's used by the district through receivership, which is a performance-based compensation system. The next one about the use of time. So the instructional annual professional development time that teachers have 8 to 9 PD days per year, knowing that, traditional school districts have sometimes 5 or fewer, and that there's every school having at least 2 hours per week of professional development time outside of student hours is also something that's unique to the district through the turnaround plan and sort of relates back to the compensation model. Within priority area 5, the streamlined central office supports for schools. And then finally, within priority area 5, the extended student school year and school day, about the supporting empowered schools in priority area 5. So that's my list that we gleaned from the turnaround plan, but certainly glad to hear any thoughts or questions, then obviously your items as well.
Dr. Caballero.
Thank you. So I was reading through the recommendations, and the questions that always came back to me was, what is the plan to implement all these suggestions? How is this going to be carried out? What are the, I don't know, departments, or who is going to be involved doing all this? How is that going to be measured up, et cetera, et cetera? Everything was, how is that going to be implemented? Yeah.
Ms. Brunel.
So if I may make a suggestion, so you had divided the priority areas to us. So if you want to have, like, whoever had priority area 1, send these items to them, or like if they could comment on them now, on what knowledge they have of them as we go through them. I just want to be conscious that we make the best use of our last 14 minutes. So I don't know how to structure that the best, but my initial thoughts with some of these, almost everything in the turnaround plan is still relative and important. I think with the exception of the COVID-19 stuff that we talk about, in the priority area number 5 as well, or was it 4? No, it's 5. But the district's doing so much work on teacher retention and so much work on so many of these priority areas that you talk about. So I think the best thing is for us to take the list he has and for us to be able to come back with the information of what we are doing, unless people are prepared to talk about these now in what exactly we're doing, and then like what our ideas are on how to strengthen them. Because I don't think we're hearing anything that we wouldn't want to continue our focus on, right? Like I said, I think the only thing that needs to be updated in here is probably the COVID-19 stuff, because I think we can all comfortably say that we're pretty close to past the pandemic. And then the only other thing I would say we want to obviously keep focusing on is infrastructure and making sure that our buildings are being taken care of, and we're doing a lot of work around that. So I didn't hear you mention that as a point, but I know it is a point in the turnaround plan, and the district's been doing a lot of really good work there as well. The MSBA has been a great partner here in the district. And so, we're like finally getting our new school and doing a lot of work to the schools that we do have. So I would just probably add that in as something, because, when we talk about longevity, we want to make sure we're planning ahead for those kinds of projects as we look forward. And that's a huge budget factor. So I think it's wise for us to just include operations and infrastructure as an additional talking point with these points as we move forward. So however you feel best, but
Yes, I agree as well, especially because now we have less than 15 minutes left. And it would be important for us to have that list. So if you can send us that list of all your suggestions that you just read off, so that way we can have some time to digest that and then be able to request any additional data that we might need.
yeah,
That will give us more time for us to really think about it through.
yeah.
Ms. Brunel.
He pulled them right out of the priorities in the turnaround plan. So as he was reading them, I was able to follow along right in there. So the detailed information is here. So I think it's in a lot of the benchmarks and implementations and all that information is here. It's just if we have specific things he wants us to look at, then we can go back and study those exact specific things and bring back the talking points. So I think that will be really helpful for us. And then just moving forward, if we could get those kinds of lists or have some kind of touch point a few days after a meeting leading to the next, so that way if you have thoughts of what you want to talk about, we can have thoughts of what we want to talk about, so that way we're structuring the meetings as effectively as we can. Because if we, for example, if we had your 14 things ahead, we could have prepared our talking points for those specific 14 things. So just in time, we only have an hour. So we want to make sure we're all using the best use of our time moving forward. So, and just to point that out, our next meeting is going to be about budget, just so we already have a meeting lined up between Dr. Rivera Colon and Mr. Soto and our finance department and Mr. Willihan, who's our chair of finance, to like plan ahead for how we see that meeting going. So we'd love to like extend that invite to you guys if you want to sit on that, if somebody wants to sit on that meeting and kind of see what we're processing as how we envision that next meeting going, so that way you can have input on the format of that meeting too. Because like I said, we're trying to do the background work, so our background work can be more efficient if we have you at the table in the planning of the background work too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And just in case, that meeting is going to be April 11 at 8:15. So if you can check your calendars and see if you want to be a part of that meeting, then, and it's Zoom. Yes.
and then we're doing the same thing, planning the same thing with our chair of policy as
Policy.
well
Yeah.
in advance of the policy meeting. So you know, we're doing all that in advance to have the most effective meetings that we can.
And yet again, we are going to loop back around to the focus on improvement and the turnaround plan. So that's going to be a meeting coming up as well. So to not lose track of that, there will be more opportunities for that as well.
And I then just sort of look back around on sort of next steps from tonight's meeting and see if we're overall in agreement about where we will go next with this focus on improvement. So I think what's, I think really gratifying about our discussion tonight is that I think our plan would say loudly and clearly the school committee is going to continue to focus on the strategic plan for the district post receivership, the elements in it. We will send you the list that we just read off. That's not a problem at all, or that I just read, of the items. And like Ms. Brunel said, they're taken right from the turnaround plan, so no surprises there whatsoever. And I think as a follow-up, if there's anything on that list that we need to delve into more deeply that's not already part of the strategic plan, we can certainly have that conversation. I would say that the final items on the list, like the compensation model and the hours, that is not part of the strategic plan. And so I do want to make sure that we don't sort of, in our overall kind of excitement, my excitement at least, about, yes, there's already a pathway here with this strategic plan, and the school committee continuing to focus on it is going to be the way that they just continue to do their work. And that's great. It's like it's a building on. And if there are any areas when we send our list that you say, though, actually, we would like to get some more information about this, we would like some more training or some more materials or more information, that would be a next step. So again, we'll send you the list. If there is anything you want, more information, more research, more training from us, we'd be glad to make sure we provide that as part of the plan. And then the third part of it is that I think in the plan, what I'm imagining in August is we would just write down and have a brief explanation of how will the school committee continue to focus on the strategic plan as we go into the 24-25 school year. That what you already have set in motion will continue, and that we all have our eyes set on that together, and that we all stand behind that process that you have already started, and it's really a continuation, this piece. So again, just wondering if that seems to make sense. So to look at this as like overall we're supporting the strategic plan as opposed to needing to take these items one by one, with the exception of some of the things that aren't in the strategic plan that we do need to come back to, like the compensation model and the hours, just to talk about what needs to be discussed here and also through negotiations in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Brunel.
Yeah, I mean, so the compensation model isn't specifically discussed in the turnaround plan, but teacher retention is. So I feel like it's tied in, even though it's not as specific.
Mhm.
And so the district is doing so much around retention. I know teacher union contracts will be up for renegotiation next year, I believe. So Mr. Soto's already been doing a good job starting to talk to me about planning ahead and just education and, getting to know what we're going to be offering, what we are offering. We're always adjusting what we're offering. I know that he's working on something already for the fall. So like, yeah, it's absolutely conscious in front of mine and something that, we look forward to being more in the process of those contract negotiations. Off top of my head, I think the longer day has been a little bit of a sore point here in the district. And so it's come up a lot in our teacher retention working groups. So it's something that, I can't say that we'd be committed to without further investigating and really diving into with the teachers because, we've lost a lot of our long-term experienced teachers. We have a lot of teachers in the district with under 3 years experience. We want to keep them. We want to build on them. We want to ensure we're keeping our teachers for the long term. And, when we're asking more of them and a longer day and a longer year and surrounding districts aren't, that's something that we need to seriously consider. So, but to my point is I know that's something that we're always looking at and that the district is looking at now. So, that's the kind of thing like we can't say right now like, oh, we're committed to keeping because that's something that maybe we can't commit to keeping, but we have to do that work and do that research to find out because we need qualified, dedicated staff in front of our students, and if that's going to be one of the big things that's going to keep them here, then that's going to be one of the things that maybe that we'd have to compromise on. But again, we'll do that work and get those points, but other than that.
Thank you. Dr. Caballero.
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you so much, Ms. Brunel, for for your words. I also wanted to highlight the need for the support of paraprofessionals. They are the backbone also of our schools, and keeping them also, as well as the teachers and the rest of the staff, will guarantee continuation, and belonging in the parts of our students. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Any last things that we might be forgetting or that we need to focus on before we adjourn this meeting and start our full school committee meeting? Ms. Brunel.
No, I guess just the key takeaways is we'll start a Google sheet, a working Google sheet between all of us. We'll share the meeting time with you that we set for the finance in preparation of the finance meeting. And then when you share that brief list with us, I'm sure Dr. Rivera-Colon will divide that work amongst the members whose priority areas that falls through, and we'll do some due diligence on that and get back to you. So that way, when we revisit this topic, it's all ready to go and prepared. But yeah, I'm just excited to be at this table and to continue doing this work. And I know that we're going to get there, right? And it's going to be what's best for the students here in Holyoke. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Caballero.
And I would like to thank both of you or all of you who are there on Zoom. Thank you so much, Acting Commissioner and your aide for supporting this process. I love to see this because it's a community effort. And thank you for supporting what we're all trying to achieve here in Holyoke, which is, a path for success to all of our students and their families. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dr. Caballero on the motion, seconded by Ms. Brunel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. This is the end, and it is 5:59. Thank you.
Thanks.